This morning I saw my boyfriend in bed with a mutual friend. As the title says, I found my boyfriend in bed with a friend of ours this morning, and I am at a loss right now. This morning, I woke up around 6 a.m. to use the bathroom and noticed my boyfriend wasn't in bed. He wasn't in the bathroom either, and his car was gone. So I checked his iCloud and found him down the road at a mutual friend's house. At 6 a.m., I was going to call him but decided to check his Facebook first. That's when I saw a message from him to her saying, "I wish you had no pants on more often." There was more to the message, but I couldn't recall it because blind rage took over, and I rushed out of the house down the road. Apparently, he sent the message while he was in her bathroom taking a shit. Her house was unlocked, so I let myself in and followed their voices up to her room, where I saw him sitting on her bed playing on his phone in boxers and a t-shirt, and her lying in bed completely naked, literally naked. Needless to say, I completely lost it. Long story short, things almost turned physical when he tried to rush through his explanations filled with lies. I ended up throwing her bong at him, which smashed a light and broke. After I ranted for a few minutes with him, still refusing to tell me the truth, she broke down crying and admitted that they had slept together a few times since May. 4 times. She said he had been trying for a while before that. She finally caved in right before her dad died in May, and that if she said no now, he would be short and dismissive with her because he wouldn't get what he wanted. I hate talking about people's appearances, but she's around 450 pounds and has very low self-esteem, despite being very pretty, very sweet, and very funny. She's like a 40-year-old cat lady. It's very sad, honestly, and he took advantage because he knew she would eventually cave in. I genuinely feel bad for her, even though I know I shouldn't. She has known us for 3 years and has been my shoulder to cry on over him cheating so many times. Now I am at a loss. He has cheated on me a lot throughout our 7-year relationship. In the past, I used to think that if I told everyone, he'd be embarrassed and stop doing it, but I know that's not the case. The time he cheated on me was in May 2023, and I found out in August 2023. We fought a lot and took a small break, during which I told him that the next time I would leave him for good. I really thought he took me seriously because he and I have been doing so well since then. It's like he's been a whole new person, happier, more energized, sweeter, and more attentive to both me and my daughter, 8 years old. He even went Mother's Day shopping with her for the first time in our relationship, and they surprised me. It was wonderful. But then I found out that this had been going on for a while now, since sometime in May, and now I'm left so confused. I believe everything she said, but I'm just dumbfounded. We were doing so well. He's been trying to be better, and I've been trying to be better. Now, I'm just lost. A huge part of me wants him to go, while another huge part wants him to stay. My daughter is going to be devastated if he leaves. He is the only father she's ever really known. I want to puke, scream, and cry. I don't know what to do. Fuck, man. I'm sorry. Damn it. I caught my partner having a one-night stand 2 days ago. Last Wednesday night, I sensed that something was off. My partner, who is 37, usually stays at his own place a few nights a week when he has to work early. It's simply more convenient than the constant back and forth between our homes. I have access to the security cameras at his apartment, and that night, something didn't feel right. When I woke up on Thursday, an inexplicable urge pushed me to check the cameras. As I scrolled through the footage, I noticed something alarming. The cameras were turned off. The last recording showed him, along with a woman I didn't recognize, unlocking the door. My heart sank. It seemed as if the cameras had been deliberately disabled to erase any trace of what had happened. Without hesitation, I grabbed my keys and headed over. When I arrived, the scene confirmed my worst suspicions. Clothes were scattered in the living room, clothes that clearly did not belong to him. My partner was there, visibly scrambling to cover himself up, his face a mixture of shock and embarrassment. He quickly concocted an explanation, claiming that he had been blacked out drunk, but his words rang hollow. I couldn't believe that someone so intoxicated would have the presence of mind to turn off the cameras or invite a stranger into his home. He insisted that he remembered nothing about the incident, and that this was the first time something like this had happened. He repeated that he loved me, and that he wasn't the type to look for trouble. Yet, as I stood there processing everything, doubts flooded my mind. Was this really just a one-time lapse? Or had there been other occasions when the cameras were turned off to hide his misdeeds? I felt isolated, not knowing whom to turn to for advice. The betrayal cut deep, especially since I had always maintained a strict standard for fidelity. Cheating was absolutely intolerable to me. Now, I was torn between holding on to our relationship and facing the unmistakable evidence of his actions. Part of me began to rationalize, wondering if there was a way to accept and move past this, but another part screamed that it was a lost cause. I'm now left with a storm of conflicting emotions, questioning whether to move forward or to finally take the step to leave. I share this in hopes of hearing your experiences or advice, Hayes. Anyone been in a similar situation? How do you reconcile such betrayal? And is it ever truly possible to forgive these actions?
A few weeks ago, I discovered my wife was having an affair with her boss. A few weeks ago, I uncovered a truth that shattered my world. My wife was having an affair with her boss. The revelation came in the most unexpected and painful way. I was listening to our baby monitor when I heard her intimate conversation. I even recorded the conversation as evidence. In that moment, my heart broke and a deep sense of trauma took hold. When I confronted her about what I had heard, she couldn't hold back her tears. She admitted the affair, pleaded with me not to leave, and promised to do anything to mend the damage. For a brief moment, I clung to the hope that we could rebuild our relationship. However, that remorse was fleeting. The very next day, she had to return to work. To my dismay, her boss didn't show up. He was reportedly intoxicated and had passed out on the street. To cover for him, she lied to her employers, only to later confide in a coworker who, unfortunately, took the information to HR. Now, both HR and her union boss are planning to meet with her and her boss separately, though no meeting dates have been set. In the midst of all this turmoil at work, she was thrust into extra responsibilities. Barely a week before the affair came to light, she had been promoted to assistant manager, and now she was handling additional tasks with little to no training. I understood that work stress might be overwhelming for her, but knowing that her struggles were intertwined with the man who betrayed our marriage only fueled my anger. After a few days, my wife left our home and stayed at a friend's house for 4 days, leaving me alone to care for our 2-year-old. Despite her being busy with work, I couldn't shake the fear that she might still be involved with someone else. My mind was in turmoil, processing betrayal, hurt, and a lingering sense of mistrust, all in less than a week since I discovered the truth. When she eventually returned home, she started going out with friends, claiming she needed time away to clear her head. I pleaded with her to stay home so that we could work on our relationship and be there for our child. With her erratic work hours, she barely saw our son, and I found myself as the primary caretaker. Even when she tried to help with our little one, her efforts were short-lived, and I had to take over almost immediately. I love my son more than anything, and while I continue to prioritize him, juggling full-time parenting with my job has left me little room to process my swirling emotions. In contrast, she seemed to have an ample support network in her friends, who were always ready to listen and comfort her. Matters took an even darker turn when she confessed that she still harbored feelings for her boss. Although she feared that she might regret leaving me someday, I made it clear that I would never fight for her love against another man. The love and respect I once had for her have dissipated. Yesterday, a heated argument erupted when she casually mentioned plans to go out again this Sunday. This seemingly innocuous comment set off a flood of anger and left me emotionally numb. This morning we managed to reconcile just enough to agree on spending a family day together tomorrow. Yet, my heart isn't in it. I'm desperately seeking a semblance of normalcy amidst this chaos, even if only for a day. I don't want to start over completely. I want to remain close to my son. While I'm considering a 50-50 custody arrangement, part of me secretly hopes for full custody, despite the inevitable conflict that would follow. I feel a profound sadness, not from heartbreak alone, but from the stark realization that I no longer love her. In the process, I've lost so much. my wife, my trust, and even our 2 cats, as I'd have to leave them behind due to the strict no-pet policy at my new place if we separate. Now, I'm left wondering if these feelings are normal. Should I accept this reality and move forward with the divorce instead of trying couples counseling? Our first session is scheduled for Monday, and I'm unsure whether it's a step toward healing or merely delaying the inevitable. My fiancée called off the wedding at the last minute. She was having an affair with her coworker. On the 28th of February, everything changed in one shocking moment. I still remember that day clearly. My fiancée, Sarah, came home from her rotation job and told me that she no longer wanted to marry me. We had been together for 10 long years, and not long ago in January, we had even talked about eloping and starting our life together. But now, it all fell apart in just one day. Sarah was only 27 years old, yet we had built a relationship full of dreams and promises over a decade. I had always believed that our bond was unbreakable. We shared hopes for a future filled with love, growing old together, and raising beautiful children. I had supported her through the hardest parts of her job. For the past 5 years, she had been working a demanding rotation schedule. At first, her routine was 2 weeks away and 2 weeks at home, and I made it work because I was devoted to our future. I cherished every moment we spent together, Evan. When I had to celebrate birthdays alone, I knew our love was strong enough to overcome any distance. However, over the last year, Sarah's schedule had shifted. She began spending 3 weeks away and only 1 week at home. The long periods of loneliness had taken their toll on her, and gradually, I started to feel the effects of that distance too. Despite the pain of being apart, I held on, waiting for her return, believing that love would bridge the gap between us. I truly thought that our shared history and dreams were enough to overcome the challenges we faced. Then, just as I was beginning to find a glimmer of hope and the strength to heal my broken heart, a message arrived on my Facebook account. It was from a woman named Alicia, someone I had never met before. She asked if I was still with Sarah. Surprised and confused, I replied that we had split unexpectedly just a month earlier. It was then that Alicia revealed a truth that shattered everything. For months, Sarah had been having an affair with Alicia's husband. Alicia's husband, Taylor, was one of Sarah's coworkers. The revelation hit me like a tidal wave. How could someone I loved and trusted betray me so deeply? While I was waiting for Sarah at home feeling the weight of loneliness and longing, she was living a double life, indulging in a secret relationship. It wasn't just a one-time mistake fueled by a moment of weakness. Sarah and Taylor had been involved repeatedly over several months. Alicia and Taylor had been married for 15 years and had 4 children together. On the same day that Sarah broke off our engagement, Taylor returned home and ended his own marriage with Alicia. At first, Alicia was overwhelmed with confusion and guilt, wondering if she had done something wrong. But soon, Taylor confessed that he had been carrying on with someone else. With that confession, the truth became undeniable. While Sarah was still calling me and promising her love, she was busy betraying me with another man. I was devastated. I had never imagined that someone who had shared 10 years of memories with me could hurt me so profoundly. I had trusted Sarah with my heart and soul. We had experienced so many moments of happiness and beauty together. I clung to the belief that our love would overcome any obstacle. But now, that love had been tainted by lies and betrayal. It felt as if every precious memory was ruined by the painful knowledge of what she had done. The betrayal was not only a personal blow, it also felt like the destruction of everything we had built together. The future we had dreamed of growing old together, having children, sharing laughter and tears was now nothing more than a distant illusion. The revelation made me question every word, every promise, and every affectionate message that once reassured me of our commitment. How could someone who once said, "I love you" so sincerely do something so cruel? That night, I confronted Sarah over messages. It was the hardest conversation I have ever had. I told her that I knew everything, that I had learned of her affair, and that I could no longer hide the pain and anger that had been building inside me. She apologized profusely, insisting that she had never meant to hurt me, but her words felt hollow, unable to mend the deep wounds that her betrayal had inflicted. I told her that the pain she caused was immeasurable, and that I would never be able to forgive her for what she had done. In that moment, I realized that the person I once loved had transformed into someone unrecognizable. Sarah had become, in my eyes, a cruel and terrible persona homewrecker who had not only destroyed our future, but had also shattered the bonds of trust and love that once held us together. I could not stop thinking about the two families that had been caught in the crossfire, the children, and Alicia, who were now suffering because of her choices. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the image of Sarah and Taylor together, and it cut my soul. I kept replaying the scenes in my mind, trying to understand how she could have been so heartless. The thought of her being intimate with another man, while she was still promising me love and loyalty, filled me with a deep, unrelenting pain. It was as if a part of me had been stolen, and I feared that the trauma would change who I was forever. In the days that followed, I felt a storm of emotions break, anger, sadness, and a desperate sense of loss. I tried to come to terms with the end of our long-term relationship, but the betrayal had left a scar that seemed impossible to heal. The future I once envisioned with Sarah was now a void, and I was left to pick up the shattered pieces of my life. Now, as I try to move on, I am haunted by the memories of what we once had. 10 years of shared experiences have been overshadowed by the betrayal that now defines our story. I had hoped that, with time, I would be able to look back and cherish the good moments we had together. But now, every memory is tainted by the pain of what was lost and by what she did to me. I continue to struggle with the overwhelming feeling of betrayal, trying to understand how someone who seemed so loving could cause such deep, lasting damage. I am left with an emptiness that is hard to fill, and a fear that the trauma will forever change the person I once was. The journey to healing seems long and uncertain, but I know that I must find a way to rebuild my life, piece by painful piece. This story is not just about lost love, but about the betrayal that can come from the most unexpected places. It serves as a reminder that even the strongest bonds can be broken by secrets and lies. As I move forward, I carry the weight of this experience with me, knowing that it will shape who I am and how I view trust and love in the future.